Somebody left a comment recently on one of the videos saying how they used these videos as part of their practice, part of their spiritual practice. I think I just replied by thanking him for his kind words or something. But really, he had the right idea. These videos are about practice. These videos might seem that they're a lot of head stuff, but they're actually about practice. And the next verse is a case in point. Verse 639. When the world is seen detached from knowledge and knowability, there is no meaning to it, and discrimination ceases to go forth. So this isn't something to understand, it's something to realize. We've got talk here of knowledge and knowability. A few verses back, verse 636, there was talk of discarding both knowledge and knower. I didn't cover that then, but what's being said today will cover it. So when the world is seen detached from knowledge and knowability, this verse, once again, is about our relationship with the world. As part of our practice, we come back to this relationship. It's ongoing. Most of the time, we pay no attention to it. Most of the time, we pay no attention to our own philosophy, which guides us in this relationship. But when we're practicing, this is what we now address. This is what we come back to. This is what we come back to right now. Our relationship with the world. All philosophy stems from this. All spiritual practice stems from this. And we find it in other traditions. Recently, I spoke about Jesus. His way of relating to the world was to see it as something that was about to end. He taught that we were living in the end times. It was all going to come tumbling down. And so he directed us to something called the kingdom of heaven, which is within. I also recently mentioned the Stoic sage Epictetus. For him, if you had no possibility of exerting control, then drop it. Drop it and be happy. He taught peace of mind by not worrying about the things you cannot control. We do not need to take our emotional cue, our mental cue, from the world out there. Stop being infested by it. Stop being infested by notions of a world out there. And in Buddhism, they teach nirvana. Nirvana is also independence from the world out there. Again, I need to make this caveat. When I was doing a bit of research on Epictetus, the Stoic sage that I mentioned, I came across this blog, and it was comparing Buddhism with Stoicism and Epicureanism, which was a philosophy which arose about the same time. All these philosophies arose about the same time. All these teachings arose about the same time. Buddhism, Epicureanism and Stoicism. And this writer, his main criticism was they don't teach social engagement. And I think this is a very Western idea, fueled by the notion of control. But to set the record straight, when you leave the world behind, it doesn't stop you being active. You can be even more active, more involved, because you get on with life. We've got the rather misleading image of the meditating Buddha. Well, it's only misleading when you think about it in certain ways. as somehow detached and aloof. Well, this is correct. The Buddha is detached and aloof, but he was also the compassionate one. And it seems like a contradiction. But he was compassionate in the sense that he acted without any self-interest. This is true compassion, acting without any self-interest, doing what needs to be done. And all these teachers were very active. So it's not about being inactive or not caring. It's just that we're not driven by the passions. We get on with what needs to be done. So this verse, as I said, is about our relationship with the world, when the world is seen detached from knowledge and knowability. And this is about cognition, our basic philosophy. No matter who you are, probably assumes that there is a world out there that the individual here is cognizing. So in spiritual practice, we bypass this. We bypass this notion. We drop it. This is what knowledge and knowability is about. There's a world out there which I can know. In simple terms, I see a cup. I see a cup. So this is knowledge and knowability. A cup is knowledge. I see it is knowing. So we drop this. I could say this is my cup. It's my favourite cup even. Please don't use it. Please don't put it somewhere different from where it's supposed to be. And so on. We can get into a whole story and drama about this cup. And this is just a cup. What about my house? What about my country? What about my family? What about my tribe? My co-religionists? People who have the same faith as me, and so on. Now you might ask, well, how do we do this? How do we just drop it? How could we possibly bypass cognition? Well, that's what this is all about. That's what this series of videos is all about. We're often asked to view the world as a dream, a mirage. If this cup was in a dream, if I was dreaming about this cup, what significance would we give to it? Perhaps in the dream we'd give it a huge amount of significance, but once we've woken up, everything in that dream no longer has the same significance. I had a peculiar dream last night. I dreamt I had a son. I don't actually have any children, but in this dream I had a son. His face is very vivid in my eye right now. Not particularly appealing face actually, although good looking in a certain way. He even had an ear stud. And he was only 10 years old, looked a bit older. But he actually had a daughter as well, a baby daughter. Maybe he was older than 10. Not quite sure where this son was supposed to have come from. But he was being looked after by my brother, who's a very physically fit person, and my son was being kept physically fit by my brother. And I was trying to explain this situation to somebody. So that was my son. Yeah, it's something I could pick up on and wonder what that dream was all about. But it's just an accident that I happened to remember it. I haven't been awake for very long. And I think I must have had the dream after I'd woken up and fallen asleep, and sometimes these dreams are more vivid. Well, there we are, that was my son. And even with the realization that I was a grandfather. But It was just a dream. It was just a dream. So all that discrimination that went on, son, brother, daughter, granddaughter, grandfather, it all just dissolves as I come back to wakefulness. So in our spiritual practice, this is what we come back to. We look at all these things that is going on around, the field of experiencing that is going on, and we come back to our own sense of being. That sense of being that can be happy no matter what's going on. Now, of course, it's not just the world that's going on here. There's what we call the body going on. And my body is a source of great discomfort these days, as is my moods. I get sucked right into it. So this is my challenge. This is my work. This is my work. Be happy, even in spite of all the aches and pains which flesh is heir to. Apologies to Shakespeare. So the next verse, 640, just consolidates this. By seeing into the nature of mind with a capital M, there is a cessation of discrimination as regards works and words. By not seeing into the true nature of self-mind, discrimination evolves. So this mind that we come back to, mind with a capital M, is this the potential we have for being happy regardless of what is going on. We do what we can, and if we cannot do anything about it, then it's not our problem. We live in a world where we're daily informed of all the terrible things that are going on. And somehow this burden is being put on us. It's a terrible situation of the people in Syria. You know, isn't there something that can be done? I can sign an online petition or something. You can do that. I suppose there was something in the news recently about a suicide bomber in Syria who was actually a British citizen. So there must be many Muslims who are feeling upset about the situation in Syria. And so what they do is they'll go off and fight, perhaps. So hopefully some of them are concerned with drumming up some humanitarian aid. But there's this feeling that you need to do something. Although I don't think being a suicide bomber is particularly helpful. So it isn't straightforward, this feeling of control. How much control do we actually have? And really, it's something which you have to leave to your own sensibility. But there seems to be an assumption, an illusion that is perpetuated that we actually have more control than we actually have. You have to find something which is right for your own station in life. It might be easier just to switch off the television and not read the news. You practice compassion within the immediacy of your own situation. You practice it to your partner, to your children, to your friends, and to your community, to whatever feels within your natural sphere of influence. We're under no obligation to respond, to watch the television news or to read newspapers and to act somehow because of it. The main thing is to see into the nature of mind, and discrimination ceases as regards works and words. Works and words are how we interact with the world. We interact by doing things, and also our speech. This can have an effect. So this discrimination is the opposite of peace of mind. It's the opposite of stillness. We're either content with how we are or we're not. And if we're not content with how we are, is there anything that we can do about it? And if not, then we can be content. There is this pressure, though, to be involved, isn't there? There's this pressure to take responsibility for the world. The extent to which you wish to act on that pressure is up to you. The main thing is to be aware of it. Your only responsibility is to be a good person. And that means being good within your immediate sphere of control, your immediate sphere of activity. And how you define that sphere of activity, the arena of your activity, is up to you. But let's not forget your spiritual practice. When it comes down to it, we should never allow the world to suck us away from mind with a capital M, or from what we can understand as our own peace of mind. Our peace of mind cannot be dependent on the world out there. The world out there can never contribute to our peace of mind. There's always going to be something wrong that demands the attention of those who care. The greatest thing you can do, the greatest thing you can offer is peace of mind. You offer peace of mind, and you can only offer this without being a hypocrite, by being established in it. This is surely the greatest gift. So get on with practicing it.